Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of Apptimized. We are going to give you a live demonstration on our Workspace solution, and I hope you can all see my screen. I'm Sian Holt. I am based in the UK. We're part of the Apptimized account management team. And with me today, Michael Schuckenader, who is our Chief Operations Officer, and also our Head of Service Delivery will be on our Q&A session. So any questions that you have during our presentation today, please feel free to type them in the box, and Stefan will be able to answer any of those. So I will get us started. Workspace is basically, it's designed by packagers for packagers. It's a software as a service model, and we offer, which is purely cloud-based. It integrates into customers' environments, and you can in one easy movement, you can have multiple formats for packages. Whilst you're creating your installation documentation, this can be done in real time, which is streamlines processes, and it will also give you a corporate identity for your documentation as well. So I'm going to take this opportunity to hand over to Michael, who will give you a live demonstration of the Workspace packaging tool for you.
Thank you, Sean. Hello from my side. My name is Michael, COO at Apptimized, and today happy to do the demo of our Workspace solution for you. So I'm starting sharing my browser window right now. And here we go. So what we can see on the screen is the Apptimized portal, which is a self-developed solution by our company, by our developers. Sean mentioned it already. The solution, which we call Workspace, was created with the knowledge from packagers for packaging engineers. We are in the process, or we are specialists in the area of software packaging for more than 15 years now. So we think we have a good understanding of what the requirements and the needs are. And this is the result of it, the current version of the Apptimized portal. Apptimized is typically managed in projects, and projects are shown on the very left of the menu navigation. Here we have our demo project for the session today, which is called Apptimized Packaging. Every project is typically then organized in a workflow. So here on our overview screen, we see the workflow already, which consists in this example of 4 steps. And these 4 steps are called upload, discovery, packaging, and download. Now let's talk a little bit about these 4 steps. Everything starts with adding software media or software binaries to the Apptimized portal. This is the step which we call upload. The discovery step is the step where we document the installation requirements and configuration settings and further customization, which should be applied to a piece of app, which will then be later on packaged. And this is the step called packaging, where we will be able to create several formats for an application. And we will see 2 different options which Apptimized offers to us. So the main focus today is, of course, on the Workspace solution, which is a self-service packaging tool. But we will also cover the option to request a factory package request, which means you can benefit from the Apptimized Packaging Factory, request a package from the factory, and and don't need to get involved or active on this particular app by yourself. This might be helpful, for example, if you have a high volume on the project, a high workload, workload peaks, for example. So just a different option to make your life easier. The final step we see on our workflow is called download. And the download step is, so to say, a summary of all created deliverables throughout this workflow. What we're going to do in a couple of minutes is we will run through this workflow, and based on an example, I will show you all the individual steps and the actions and features which we can use from the Apptimized portal. But before we do this, let's take a closer look on the overview page here. So I scroll down a little bit and we see that we have additional views here which organize the project portfolio. For example, the Your Assignments box, which lists all applications with detailed information which are currently assigned to my user account. Now, this is a demo project, as mentioned. It was set up by me. There is only one user, so all the work is related to me at the moment. On the right-hand side, we see another section which is called Project Basket. And this shows all the applications which are managed by the team of this project right now. So again, the lists are identically because everything is assigned to me. On the bottom of the page, we have another interesting section which is called Portfolio Status Chart. And this graphic shows how many apps are currently in which stage of the entire portfolio. So we have discovery, we have packaging, we have download, and when I mouse over these three colors and sections, then I get also a tooltip which tells me how many apps are currently in the according status. Now that's the project overview page. Another page I would like to show you before we get our example started and run through the workflow, and that's the portfolio view. So the portfolio view is what I typically call the heart of Apptimized, because from here I have a good overview of all the software items which are managed in this project. Not only in a short summary, but with extended details. As you can see, we have all the meta information here. We have language, we have dates when things got started and updated, the current stage, the assignee, the actions, and I can even expand this view because there are some more details which I can select to be displayed on my portfolio view. Now from here, I can also continue working on several software items. For example, when I click the process button, it allows me to take it right from there and continue with the action, which in this particular example would be packaging self-service. Some of the packages or some of the applications have already passed the workflow. That's where what you can see mentioned is download list of files. And some others are still in the process, which are not highlighted with green. Those are the apps or the sections where we need to take care of today. Now, another important or interesting thing is, before we get started with an example today, the settings page. Why I'm showing this? Because we talk about application packaging today, right? And application packaging has also a lot to do with guidelines, rule sets, compliancy, and other general settings, which you might want to configure for the overall project to make sure that all the applications and all the packages you create out of them follow the same set of rules and guidelines. Now, with our experience of 15 years of packaging, we think that we understand the requirements quite good. And that is why we built up Apptimized in the way that general settings can be reused and will be reused when running through the workflow. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So first of all, we take a look on the packaging step. And we have some general guidelines which can become important. For example, naming conventions. So we can define naming conventions here as a global template, which will then be reused by the tools, which I will show you later. We can also select, as an example, the different formats. So we mentioned in the beginning of this call that we support different formats. Here they are listed. So we have AppV, VSL, MSIX, and MSI. Maybe short note on that. You may have heard about AppV, MSIX, and MSI already, I guess. VSL is something which might be new to you because that is a very new format which was developed by Apptimized. So we have developed our own packaging format. It's a kind of an application layering solution. Yeah, we in order to automate the packaging process more and more, we thought it's a good idea to have our own format which we can control and manage by our tools in a better way than the others. So but we don't want to put too much focus on these formats today. The important thing is how to get an output of Workspace. And since still MSI is the industry standard, we're going to focus more on MSI today. So what else can we configure here? I skipped the sections of the platforms. I will explain later what this means. And we'll go directly to the MSI section, where I can show you what kind of settings we can configure here. So again, there is a naming convention for MSI and MST files, and there are some settings which you might be familiar with if you're also created packages, MSI packages yourself already. So what we have here is in the first section, the question about the wrapper. So when we talk about deploying apps with SCCM, it makes sense to use a wrapper, which allows to control and also to notify users during the installation, control the installation, have extended logging. And Apptimized considers 3 different formats of the wrapper. We have batch files, we have a PowerShell app deployment toolkit based wrapper, we have Visual Basic script files we can use. We prefer the PSADT framework in these days. That's why it's set as a default here. And these settings here are related to the PowerShell app deployment toolkit. Some properties which you can see here have been pre-filled already. For example, how to return a reboot code after an installation, or what the property should be to use for specific meta information. We also can control the user interface. We can control the installation logging. Further options are here to control the installation behavior. For example, should it be a per machine or a per user context we install? I guess typically still it's the per machine use case we see in managed network environments today. And we can also configure how reboots should be managed. Are reboots allowed or not? With allowing reboots, I'm referring to the package which gets allowed to trigger a reboot, which we also typically don't do because this should be, from our point of view, managed by the software deployment tool. All right, some more settings might be interesting, for example, to configure the appearance in the Add and Remove Programs panel. So which buttons should be available to the user, what information we want to publish in the different URLs which are shown on the ARP panel. We can also configure how we want to deal with the binaries which are a part of the package. So what's the maximum cap file size? Do we want to have them as embedded cap? Do we want to have them as separate cap file? We can define how to handle ini files, com tables, how to deal with system components. For example, the setting here, mark them as permanent if something gets installed to the system folder, which is a best practice. and some more packaging specific settings. I don't want to cover each and everything, just highlight some of them which might be helpful and useful, and also reflecting best practices and business and industry standards. So per user data is something which you also might be aware of when we talk about active setup, to make sure that every user who signs into a machine after a package gets deployed, and to be enabled to use the application accordingly with all user specific files and registry key, we use active setup. Still we use it, yes, although Windows 10 might deactivate this feature someday with one of the next versions, but actually it is still supported, so we still use it. We have already a replacement solution for this in place, and yeah, but this one works quite well. It makes sure that all the settings get installed to every user who logs on. And our packages or Apptimized packages can also be configured to write a branding key. That's a little timestamp, so to say, in the registry, which can be configured here. So typically we write it under HK local machine software Apptimized. And here we can again use properties to have a nice little generic entry. All right, so that's it about the settings which I wanted to show you. Now the next step would be to get it going and to take an application and pass it through the process. So how are we going to do this? Switching back to the workflow entries here, and we have an entry which says add application. This sounds good to me. So I want to add an application to my Apptimized project. So let's pick this entry and see what happens. Takes a moment. It takes another moment. Okay, let me cancel this and try again because it takes too long. Typically this works much better. Okay, finally we made it. So here is the screen I was expecting. And as you can see, with clicking add application, Apptimized starts the workflow from the very first step, which is upload. You might remember it from the overview screen. And below here, we see now what the information is that Apptimized requests from me. So it starts with installation source. That's the vendor media we are asked to download to upload here. Now, what I can do here is I can pick a file which is stored on my local computer. I can also sideload it directly from the internet by providing a URL from the vendor where the vendor hosts the media for download, or I can get a file from the storage, and the storage is another feature in Apptimized, which is comparable to a cloud drive, something like that. So if my binaries would be stored here, then I can pick them from there. What I would like to show you in our demo is we're gonna try to sideload a binary from the internet, and the example I have chosen is FileZilla. So I'm already on the download side for FileZilla, and all I need to do is to copy the link of this URL here, copy link address, and paste it on the screen, hit start button. And what now happens is Apptimized will, oh no, that was not the right one. Apptimized will check the vendor's website and download the media automatically, like we can see here. Now there is another information I'm asked for, which is called discovery document. This is optional, and since we have the discovery step in our workflow as step number 2, we can skip this right here and create the discovery document on our own. And actually that is what I would like to show you, because this is one of the benefits Sean mentioned also in our introduction of the call today. So before we get to the discovery, we need to finish the upload section first. What we can see here is the vendor media, which is displayed on the left-hand side, and all the meta information which got extracted from this file automatically. So I don't need to fill this by my own. I just review if everything is correct, and then I'm actually already good to go. What I still can do here is I can create connections between the application family. So I can link previous versions to this one. We have a previous version of FileZilla in our portfolio. So let's pick this here to make Apptimized aware of the previous versions. And what we can also do is we can manage prerequisites by selecting prerequisites for FileZilla. Well, okay, we all know FileZilla is a standalone app which does not require anything else, but let's assume we have a dependency, and the dependency is something like a Visual C++ runtime. So I have this Visual C++ runtime in my portfolio. I can pick it from here and use the source file, for example, for this entry. Click Save, and then I have created the link to this prerequisite. Let's continue with this step. And now we come to the discovery module. And here we have a screen which asks for 2 different options. The first one is you will perform discovery, which will be the option I'm going to choose. The second one is go straight to packaging. So that allows me to skip the discovery itself. If I, for example, if I have uploaded the discovery document in the very first step on upload initialize, then I might skip this step. If I don't have a discovery document, I want to create one. So click on continue. And here we see a drop down which asks me to select an operating system, so to say a virtual machine. The idea is that we're going to perform the installation on one of these virtual machines, and Apptimized will document all the steps automatically for me. So me as a user, I'm not, how to say, I don't need to take care of having the right documentation template available. I don't need to take care of having the screenshot tool installed. During the installation itself, I don't need to take care about the screenshot. So Apptimized does all the magic for me. And yeah, we have in this project, we have 3 different Windows VMs configured. This can be adjusted, of course, to specific customer needs. So more variants of Windows VMs can be hosted here. And by the way, this can also be linked to Azure infrastructure. So with some connectors we have produced in Apptimized, we can integrate into existing Azure subscriptions or other virtual environment infrastructures, which is managed or used in customers' environments. So I pick Windows 10 as my discovery virtual machine, which I would like to use here. And I don't hit the Start VM button because I have prepared this in a separate tab. That's what you see up here. So I will switch to the next tab, which continues the workflow from exactly the step we have here. I just want to save some time because firing off the virtual machine can take up to 60 seconds. So let's save time here and go right to the next step. What we see here is the virtual machine that has been started. I got automatically signed in with a user account. Also, this network drive, which you can see here, so it's called Apptimized files. This got automatically mapped for me. And on this map web drive, I see my source files. So here in the source folder, there is my FileZilla installation media. Now there are some more interesting controls which we should put light on before we move on. There's the screenshot feature, which I already mentioned. This is automatically switched on, so you can also see the record icon flashing here in the right upper corner. That indicates that we are good to go and we can start recording our installation. Other controls here are RDP sessions, which allow me to access this virtual machine via RDP session. We have also a little management console for dealing with snapshots for this VM. We have a clipboard to exchange information between the remote and the host. We have a full screen button, which allows to run this VM in full screen mode. And we can restart the OS, the VM, or the overall session, and of course also finish the session. All right, so I think we're good to go, and we can start with the installation of our FileZilla. Here we see the legacy setup. I will start this right now. And while I'm clicking on and doing activities with mouse and keyboard, you can see that in the right bottom corner, these green boxes appear. And the green boxes are the screenshots, which are now taken from all my actions. So I run through the installation here. Click next. Now the app gets installed. Yeah, I want to start FileZilla now because I also want to do some additional changes to the permissions, or not to the permissions, to the settings. Hit the finish button here. All right, FileZilla gets started, and now I can also document my customization to the settings. So a typical requirement is to disable this automated updates. So that's something we don't want to do in a managed network environment. We can do some further changes, like, for example, change the language to some default language, configure logging options, etc. So whatever we want to customize here can be configured, and Apptimized automatically takes screenshots from my actions, so I don't need to care for this. Since I have a Windows desktop in front of me, I can of course also access the registry and the file system, which allows to document further changes. For example, if there is a config file where I do need to make some changes, I can document this. If there are registry keys, which values I want to change, I can document this. So everything possible here. With my application, I'm happy. I'm good to go with and finish with the discovery session here. So let's hit the finish button and check out the next step. And on this screen, I get presented to all the screenshots created by Apptimized. And what we can see is that there is not only the screenshot, but there is also an according comment which was generated automatically. So it's really easy due to the screenshot, the comment, and the highlighting here that a packaging engineer, if it's a different person from the one who creates the discovery document, can easily understand and follow up on the changes or on the process of how to install this application. So we have the installation documented, we have the changes to the settings documented. Here we switched updates to never, so all there. Additionally, if there is something which we were not able to document with the help of the automated screenshot feature, there is an additional comment box which allows me to enter further information and make it available to the packaging engineer. For example, if we have a license key which was not documented in the screenshots, we can describe it here. Hit the Save Changes button, and Apptimized will create a nice little document out of this. The document is provided in two different formats, which are HTML and PDF. So let's check out the PDF document. And let's take a short look on this one. So the PDF document gets created based on an Apptimized template. You see the logo, you see our colors here. Maybe it's worth to mention that Apptimized Portal is a white label solution, so it can be adjusted to any corporate identity. If you want to reflect your color scheme here, that's all not a problem. The discovery document contains of the meta information, like we see here. It also documents the user who performed this discovery session. It summarizes the screenshots in a nice little overview. And of course, again, it shows all the detailed steps which were carried out by me during my session on the virtual machine. And on the very end of this document, we also have the additional information where I entered the license key. All right, so that's how to create the discovery document. We're going to continue in the workflow and come to the next step or the next module, which is called packaging. Now, in this project, in this demo project, Apptimized is configured to support the self-service option, which is you will create the application package. It supports the Apptimized Factory, the Apptimized Packaging Factory, which says let Apptimized create the application package for you. And again, we can skip this step, which doesn't make sense now in our scenario. So we're going to pick the first one in this example because yeah, we want to see how Apptimized can support this process of creating a package. I continue with the workflow. And this screen is similar to the one we saw in the discovery self-service option. So again, here we are asked for operating system on which we want to run the packaging process itself. Why do we need another virtual machine here? Because the packaging tool is and the overall packaging process needs to run on a Windows operating system, right? So, and here again, I will not click Start VM here because I want to save the time and not wait for the virtual machine to get fired on. So I switch to the next step where I have prepared the step of packaging already. And again, what we see here is a virtual machine which I got automatically signed in, a network drive which got mapped for me. I have the source media available here. And the difference to the discovery machine is that I have the Apptimized packaging engine pre-installed on this snapshot. Now, what we want to do is we have a legacy setup here. Legacy setup is something which is called setup.exe file, and we want to migrate this into an MSI, an MSIX, an MV, an VSL, and probably also an Intunewin file, which is the new format Microsoft Intune supports to deploy packages. How are we going to do this? We start the ape tool, which is the Apptimized Packaging engine. And this allows us to either repackage a vendor media to an MSI, a V, MSIX, or VSL, or we can transform and edit existing MSIs. So typically you don't want to repackage an MSI because all the benefits from the Windows installer technology would get lost then, right? So those get typically transformed. We have a legacy setup, so we pick the repackaging option. Now, Ape works kind of like repackaging tools you might know from other third-party vendors. We are asked for, first of all, start the recording, and then we need to identify which process we want to record. So I want to record the process of installing FileZilla, select the installer here, and then hit the run button. What Apptimized does right now is it monitors the installation process and detects all changes to the operating system. It's not a snapshotting comparison, it's more like an installation monitoring, which hooks into the APIs that are identified and detected and gathers all the information regarding to the operating system changes. And of course, here now I can also do a customization of my FileZilla app in the same way as it was described in the discovery document. Disable automated updates, make changes to the language. I guess we also configured some logging options. Okay. Close the application and tell Ape that we are good to go with the next step. So the installation has been performed and configured. All right, and now we see that Ape has detected the setup, the version, the language, etc. And what we can do is we can now review the recorded content. So this is what packaging is mostly all about, right? So running through this process of snapshotting an app and repackaging an app is typically not a big thing. It becomes interesting when we talk about reviewing the recorded content and cleaning up what has been recorded. So Ape supports this process and makes life on some steps easier. So for example, here we see that some files have been detected which were locked during our process. So here is an icon cache file. I don't want to include this into my package, so I select exclude and apply. And here we have a few which shows the changes which were detected on the file system. So some folders here have been touched during the installation, and you can see some of them are highlighted in red. Highlighting red means those folders get excluded from the package based on the blacklist we have configured for Apptimized. So these files and folders don't get into the package at all. So the goal is to have just those files and folders in the package later on, which are related to our FileZilla, right? And yeah, so this is a typical work of a packaging engineer. Run through all the areas here and check and control what has been touched, what has been changed. Is it relevant for my app? Do I need to integrate or exclude it from my package? So here, for example, we have something that is not related to FileZilla. And the same needs to be done for the registry keys. So again, we have red highlighted keys showing up here already based on the exclusion list. And I can, of course, run through this and exclude all other settings which are not related to my FileZilla app. All right, so just to give you an overview of how the cleanup process works and is supported by Ape. So this is another one which we don't want to have. And finally, there's the shortcuts section, which also is helpful here. So on one view, I can see what shortcuts have been created by this legacy setup. And as you can see, the uninstall shortcut automatically gets excluded because we don't want to use the uninstall logic from the vendor setup. Since we create an MSI, we want to use the technology from Windows Installer to install and uninstall apps. So we don't need this this shortcut any longer. Okay, as soon as I'm done with my cleanup and I'm happy with the changes, I hit the save button and go to the next step. And here on the next step, I can select the output format from this process. So we have, as you remember, in our general settings, we have configured MSI. That's why it is switched on already. We have, when I scroll down, AppV. Oops, there it is. We have MSIX and VSL, which again is the optimized specific format. So if you paid attention carefully to what Sean said in the beginning, there was a fifth format which was mentioned, and that is a separate option which we have hidden here. So it's the Intunewin file which we support, and that can be selected for all the four formats like MSI, MSIX, MV, and VSL separately to get them wrapped into an Intunewin file. That allows us to deploy them through Microsoft Intune, which has some limitations. For example, number of files or file size was kind of a limitation with the latest version, and with this Intunewin file, Microsoft provides more flexibility on this. And of course, we can override settings here, which we have also defined in the general settings. You might remember on the wrapper, which we have talked about. So batch file, PowerShell, VBS, and the PowerShell is the default. That's why the radio button reflects this here. We have, again, some MSI specific settings, like how we want to deal with COM specific information, ini files. This one is maybe interesting, use duplicate table for user files installation. So nice little feature, which is, I think it's best practice in most packaging factories, but it's something which tools typically do not support, etc. So the settings for AppV to make sure what version of AppV should be used. Should it be limited to be executed only on specific operating systems? Also here, allow COM interaction, for example, that can be switched on or off according to specific needs or applications. Followed by the settings for MSIX. Here it's important that we need to understand MSIX is, or MSIX packages only work if they have a digital signature. So that's why we provide the settings to change this here as well. And finally, the settings for the VSL packages. So let's give it a go and try to produce an output for all of these formats, including an Intune wrapper. And yeah, check out how we move on. So the first two formats have been created successfully. MSI and MSIX is currently working on AppV, and now finally VSL. All right, the process has finished. All four are green. We have an extended logging here, so we can follow up this the steps which were performed, which typically is not that much interesting. It only becomes interesting when something went wrong here, right? And when you need to contact support, for example, because something crashed. And by the way, Sean mentioned that there is a support option available, and you might have already seen it. So down here in the right bottom corner, you can always get in touch with our specialists from the Apptimized support. All right, let's finish this step here and save our output so that I can show it to you before we load it up back to the workflow in Apptimized. Yeah, let's just put it on desktop in a new folder, which we call let's call it new folder. All right, and here we have the output of AppV. With an MSI that allows to deploy the AppV package itself. We have a folder for Intunewin, which contains all the four package types again in an Intunewin wrapped file format. We have our MSI, which is wrapped into the PSADT. So we have the deploy application executable, which actually starts the installation, and the MSI itself is hidden here. And we have one more, MSIX and VSL. So yeah. All there. All right, so at the moment, these files are saved locally on my virtual machine, but I want to get them back embedded in the workflow. By the way, I can in between switch to the different view, which shows the files which have been created in the step of the workflow. Don't get confused by the missing discovery file here. That is just because in this particular example, I skipped the discovery. If we go back to that one, you see that they have been created. All right, so now we want to upload them to the packaging module and make sure that they are accessible for other users as well who have access to our Apptimized project. So I click on Upload Results to Apptimized, Upload Results Archive, start uploading. And again, Apptimized does some magic and helps me to make sure all the stuff is stored safely. All right, so that also takes a little moment. And while we wait for the upload, let me check in our portfolio view that we prepare an application for a factory request. That will be the our final topic for today, to show you this option as well, how an application package can be requested by the Apptimized Factory. If you don't want to create the package by yourself with the help of Ape, then we have the option to do this for you. All right, so this has been uploaded. Okay. To refresh here. And then we can see the zip archive showing up here in the packaging module. Now I can finish the session with my virtual machine here and go to the next step in the workflow, which is the download step. And as mentioned in the beginning, this is just a summary of all the deliverables which were generated throughout this 3 steps. Again, we miss the discovery documents here because in this particular example, I just skipped it, but the installation media is here and the package archive is also here. All right, so that is about the Workspace solution, and we have now the option to check out the factory request page. So let me just revert one of the issues to the package initialize step, because from there we can take it to a factory request. All right, you might remember this screen. We are again in the module of packaging. We have the 3 options to use the self-service, to use the factory, or to skip. So now let's pick the factory option and click on continue. And to create the factory request, all we need to do in addition, I mean, of course, we need to run through discovery and document our installation requirements. But in addition to that, all we need to do is fill in these 3 fields here. So the first question we need to answer is the packaging technology. So you can pick several formats from here, as you can see, MSI, for example, and we need to select a platform, Windows 10, for example, or if we want to have a package to be created by the engineer to support more than one platform, this allows a multiple selection. Finally, there's a priority field which asks for the urgency, so to say. And the 2 options are normal and urgent. There are SLAs behind, so urgent speeds up the process and cuts down the SLA to 4 business days maximum throughput time. The normal option would have an SLA of 8 business days maximum throughput time. So let's make this urgent and hit submit request. Click the OK button and we're good to go. So we have created a packaging request successfully. It shows up here in the packaging factory process screen where we see the current status. It's in incoming check and it has been started right now. And from here we can also follow up on the progress. We see the SLA ticking here. And yeah, the next steps would be, as soon as the packaging engineer has started to work, we can follow up on the progress here. And as soon as the package is ready, it will show up in the deliverables section here and can be downloaded from here and integrated into your environment. And we have a comments and attachments box, which allows to communicate directly with packaging engineers. So this can be helpful if some additional questions need to be clarified, additional information needs to be shared, or if in case of an error or any other situations, there is a need to upload a file, for example, a log file or a license file or whatever, which was forgotten in the initial upload section. That can be also covered by this upload feature. So let me then, to finish the session here, let me show you how it looks like when a package has been delivered. I think I should have a suitable example here in my project. Oh, that's already on the download step, sorry. Packaging delivered. All right, so this example shows how it looks like when the package gets delivered. It was a different app, it is 7-zip, but the logic is the same, so it can be downloaded from here, can be rejected. If an error gets identified, then it can be rejected, which means this triggers a bug fix, and we're gonna check out if the problem was caused by our packaging engineers in the factory, and then the fix gets done for free, of course. Or if everything was fine, the package can be approved from here. And yeah, here's a short, stupid example of how the communication looks like. And yeah, if I now hit approve request, then I can continue with the next step and get it to download a list of files. All right, so what we have covered today was this workflow running 2 different options. The first one was the self-service option, where we created a package by using the ape repackaging engine, and the second option running a factory packaging request, which allows to, for whatever reason, if you don't have time, if you don't have the resources and you want to create a package with the help of our factory, create the according factory request, and yeah, finish the workflow with the download step, which summarizes all deliverables which have been generated. That's all I wanted to show today from my side. Now I'm handing back to Sean for a final statement, and looking forward to hear from you. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, then let's get in touch via email. Thank you. Handing over to you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who joined us today. And as you can see, my email address is on the screen here. If you'd like a recording of the session, then please do drop me an email and I will make sure a recording is sent across to you. And equally, if you have any additional questions or would like any further information, then please do contact me either on my email or through our contact page on our website. Again, thank you, Michael, for the live demo today, and thank you everyone for attending. I'm now going to close the call off. Have a good day.